at the Wellness Park Pharmacy at 86th and Buffalo Avenue and the Community Medical Pharmacy on Michigan Avenue just off Main Street. You're not just another customer, and your needs are important. To them, you're a somebody.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
Now under new ownership, both pharmacies will see to it that you get the personal service that you deserve. Want to give them a try? Then call right now, 260-1918, and tell them you want to switch your prescriptions over to the Wellness Park Pharmacy or Community Pharmacy in Niagara Falls. They'll make all the phone calls to make it happen. And both pharmacies offer free home prescription delivery. And when you have them on the phone, be sure to ask about their wide selection of CBD products. Available in creams, oils, gummies, and much, much more. Get all the details today by calling 260-1918. The Wellness Park Pharmacy at 86th and Buffalo Avenue and the Community Medical Pharmacy on Michigan Avenue just off Main. Call 260-1918.
Where everybody knows your name. Everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. Where everybody...
Well, we're going to be talking about the fire departments, and we're going to be talking about some of the different volunteer fire companies and things going on with the state. We have I hope I say this right, the Vice President of the Firemen's Association of the State of New York, Ed Tase, with us. Hi, Ed.
Hi, thank you very much.
I'm interested in what this is all about, and you're here, you got a couple of concerns, and we're going to talk about what tonight?
Talk about recruitment in the volunteer fire service to keep the volunteer fire service in the state of New York viable for another 150 years.
Are we doing well with recruitment? I mean,
The volunteer fire service numbers have been dropping over the last 5 to 10 years. We just completed a recruit weekend, and last weekend in April, every department opened up their doors to show the public what they do and the value of the volunteer fire service.
Well, we're going to talk with Ed. We're going to hear about the volunteer fire companies and what they're trying to do, what they do, and how they do it, probably how you can help and get involved. And we're also going to talk with the Chief of Police, Tom Licata, who's on the line with us, and we'll talk with him in a minute. He said that he would let us know what changes he was going to make in Niagara Falls. He did say when he got in office, one of the things he was going to do was take some of the guys from inside the building and put them out on the road. He's done that. We'll talk about that and a whole bunch of new projects and something with the FBI in Niagara Falls coming up. Time to stock up on your warm weather favorites for summertime entertaining, gift giving, and enjoying. Supermarket Liquors and Wines is your headquarters for all the liquors and wines you'll need throughout the season. And you know what? They're open 7 days a week for your convenience, late night Friday, Saturday, and always plenty of cashiers on hand to speed you on your way. You want to find out what their specials are every week? Just check them out online, supermarketliquor.com. They're Niagara's largest liquor store, which means their prices and selection are the best you're going to find. Supermarket Liquors and Wines, Niagara Falls Boulevard, Military Road, just across from the Fashion Outlet Mall. Supermarket Liquors and Wines, where you'll always find plenty of brightly lit free parking in front of the store. And plenty of cashiers on hand to speed you on your way. Supermarket Liquors and Wines. We have Police Chief Tom Licata on the line. He's promised he would let us know as plans progress to make some changes in what's happening in the city with the police force. Chief, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, sir.
Good. I'm anxious to hear that you are making some effort into, the safe shopping days, but I'm hearing it's not just that, you're expanding to other details. Tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, today we did put out a press release. The Safe Shopping Initiative is underway. It's kind of a two-component system. One of them is going to be the actual saturation of certain areas, tops 1,000 Portage or tops 7,200 Niagara Falls Boulevard. We're going to try to announce that in advance so that people that want to show up while we're there can plan accordingly and come while we're there. And we will be announcing dates on your show and other media outlets as they come up. In addition to that, we're going to have some patrols that may be in police cars, on foot, bicycle, and even some plainclothes details that we're really not going to reveal when and where those are going to be, but you'll see them as they occur. And so that's where we are with the Safe Shopping Initiative right now.
So you're going to be doing the original, as they did, you're going to be doing the shopping centers and,
Yes. We had the community gathering event on I believe it's the 14th from 2 to 6 in the city market. There'll be a pretty good police presence there with elected officials, so people can come out and talk to us, but they can also take that opportunity to shop in the city market area. And then I believe the next day after that, we're starting our first saturation at tops 1,000 Portage. And then the following week, we're moving it out to tops 7,200 Niagara Falls Boulevard. But we already have, as we speak, we have extra patrols in the business districts this afternoon.
so you're increasing the patrols, and it's not just walking, you're talking bicycle, you're talking extra patrols in cars.
Yeah.
And,
Yep, and if there are certain things that are happening in certain areas where we have to put a plainclothes officer out or several, we'll concentrate on some enforcement action in the business district as well. So some of those things we're not revealing because we want people to know when we're going to do that. But the saturation where we're in tops, we definitely want people to know when those are.
how are we getting the money to fund this, Chief? Now, I know the council has approved $50,000 for safe shopping days, but there's more that you're working on?
Well, we got the funding for the safe shopping. What we're doing is we're trying to utilize that money, but modifying some other officer assignments to get them out so that we're not only using overtime money, so we can get more officers out. So, for example, the detail may have 2 officers working overtime and 2 officers that are assigned there from either community relations or a different unit, traffic or RAC or something like that.
So you're doing what you said. You said you were going to take some people and shift them around to put more people on the street. That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, yeah.
So what's this, one other thing, I'll let you know, I know you're busy, you got to go, but this other thing, there's some type of an FBI operation, or what exactly explain that to me.
Yeah, we, when some of this stuff started to happen, I started exploring what's called the FBI Safe Streets Task Force. We have a detective assigned to that. He just became assigned to that. They will be coming full speed into the city starting on Monday, where we'll brief them as to some of the things that we have going on. It's a task force that's made up of local, state, and federal law enforcement agents, and their Safe Street initiative is basically violence, gun violence, anything that's drugs, gangs, things of that nature is what they specialize in. So we're going to try to see if we can get them to give us some help with some of the issues that are plaguing the city.
Do we have any idea how many days that'll be, or if it will continue throughout the summer, or is it just a couple-day event?
There's a detective from the department assigned to it, so it has become, they have a vested interest in being in the city, and he will work cases and bring what he needs from the task force into the city when he needs it. But we share him with the task force, so they may be doing things that spill over from Niagara Falls into Buffalo, or from Rochester to Niagara Falls. So it kind of made sense, because I know that some of this crime that's occurring isn't particularly just Niagara Falls crime. It's crime that's a Western New York crime. It could be even outside of Western New York. And being on a task force like this, there is no boundaries to what they can investigate and what they can do. So it seemed like it was a good move. It just,
So it's
it just needed,
task
same
force,
thing.
from the FBI, though. It's attached
Well, the
to the
FBI,
FBI.
Yep. And, it's the same thing. You have to take somebody, and somebody that was doing something else now has to be a part of that task force. So you're giving and taking to make things happen, and that's, what we said we were going to do, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, that's good. Keep us posted as to the events as they come through. This task force thing sounds like a great idea. I mean, it's a change. It's something that it may make a big difference. When will we see an impact on all these things that you just talked about?
I'd love to say that we're going to see an immediate impact. I think Safe Shopping Days is going to be an immediate impact because we've had people asking for this for a while, especially some of the people that live in the towers that want to come out and shop and maybe are fearful of panhandlers or things like that. So I think as quick as next week, when they know that we are there and they can come out and feel safe, it's going to be an immediate impact for them. So that's a plus. The Safe Streets kind of initiative may take a little time for them to get their feet wet and figure out what's going on in the city and what they want to address and attack. But I would hope that in the next few weeks they're going to start, seeing where their focus is and start making some changes and some differences there also.
Now, Chief, I appreciate the fact that you're making moves that you said you would when you took office, and you're keeping us posted and letting us know, and you're moving the idea forward and changing a few things, which maybe is what we need. Thank you, Chief, and I hope to hear from you again.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and I hope that these changes make a big difference. That's what it's all about, I guess.
We'll keep an eye on it, and you're welcome to join us. I know you're busy, but whenever you see free, we got to get you in studio one day to take some phone calls and talk the whole thing over. Maybe when you get some statistics on what we just talked about, how it worked out.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chief.
Hey, have a good night.
You too. No, he did what he said he was going to do.
FBI.
Coming in, yeah.
That's serious stuff.
Well, we need serious stuff in this
Oh,
town.
no doubt.
And I tip my hat to the chief. At least
yeah.
he's doing what he said he's going to do. He's trying, and he went in there, and I don't know how they recruited this FBI task force, but it sounds like I bet they start using that in the town. People going to think twice.
People might pay
before.
attention to that.
I
huh?
hope they do.
Okay,
Ed
good.
Tase is with us. We're talking about the volunteer fire company. We're talking the whole state here. I mean, we're in Niagara County, but you represent the state.
I represent every volunteer firefighter in the state of New York.
So tell us, where are the volunteer fire companies throughout the state at right now? Good position, bad position, need money, need workers, what? Or are they doing well?
The numbers of volunteers are down. The equipment that we have is adequate for the job that we do. Every single volunteer fire company in the state of New York needs help. But again, who is it that needs help? But in Niagara County, we're a little different than some of the other areas of the state. Niagara County departments are mostly independent departments, where like the town of Niagara, Frontier, South Lockport, the various fire departments are operating individually. They're responsible for their own funding, all their own equipment. They do receive
So what do we count on? Bingos?
bingos, chicken barbecues. The towns do give the departments, like I can say, in the town of Lockport, the 5 fire companies within the town of Lockport, they do get in the average of about $300,000 to $400,000 a year from the town, and that comes from the fire protection taxes that are paid on your property taxes. So that is divided amongst the departments, and out of that money, they are required to buy all their own apparatus, all their own turnout gear, put all the fuel in their trucks.
When you say, they are required, if I go to be a volunteer fireman, I have to buy my own turnout gear, or the fire company buys it for
The departments have to buy it for their
Okay.
members.
Okay.
And they have to buy all their turnout gear. They have to put all the fuel in the apparatus out of that town money. They pay the utilities on their halls, all the insurance on their halls, on their equipment and on their halls. Any training that they have to do is paid for through that.
It sounds like a lot of money that has to go out compared to, if they're counting on bingos, and how, do they get contracts with the towns and the
They
villages?
got a contract. The towns usually give them a 3-year contract.
And how much money do they usually give a fire company?
About $400,000 a year.
And how much does an average fire company run
Spend?
into? Yeah, how much is their expenses?
Some of the budgets run in the excess of $1 million.
So that, I mean,
That's
there's,
a lot of chicken barbecue.
yeah, that's a big difference there.
To buy a,
Under the B?
to buy a, to buy
Nobody
a,
won that one. We ain't giving any money out tonight.
to buy a fire truck runs you about $750,000.
But you don't have to do that every year.
No, you buy them, most of our departments in the county have a 5-year, plan in effect where they try to replace their equipment every 5 years.
Why do you think numbers are down for your fire? You said that the number for volunteer.
Because of the, economic value in the county and in the state, because you got people working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, both members of the household are working today.
So they don't have time.
And they don't have the time constraints are there. The volunteer fire service in the county, most of us have a service award program where we have to make so many points, and then we get a slight retirement out of it when we're done after 62, or after you, but you gotta make your points for the year. So in other words, it's just not a free ride.
Okay.
You get what you put into it, you know?
Okay.
If you just join the fire department and don't go to any calls, just walk around with your pager on and look important,
Oh,
you're not
forget
gonna,
that.
you're not gonna get into the retirement because you didn't make your points. There are those members that are out there that just wanna run around with a blue light on their truck and a radio on their hip, but they really seriously don't wanna go help.
Because I found out the blue light is the volunteer firemen.
Right.
Blue light,
That's
That's
a
right.
courtesy light
Yeah.
for the volunteer firefighters.
Right.
courtesy light.
Now that is not, it's, you don't have to pull over for them, but they want.
If you see the blue light.
But you gotta understand, these people may be going to save somebody's life, they may be
Right.
going to a fire, they may be going to a heart attack, so.
Right.
But some people ignore it.
It's a courtesy light.
It's a courtesy light, and I almost think that there should be some type of a penalty if you see a volunteer fireman behind you and his blue light is on and you don't pull over. I think there should be some type of penalty for not giving them the right of way to go to an emergency.
You're right, and it could be your own house that you'd be going to.
Absolutely.
You'd be going to, you know, and it's out there, but we have chosen not to cross that path in state legislation because we have a lot of other issues at the state legislation that we're pushing right now, trying to get through out there. Like
How's the state in general treating you guys?
the state is,
They like you?
they love what we do, but they don't want to pay us.
No.
We just completed, the State Firearms Association completed a economic value study of where the state of New York would be today if they didn't have the 108,000 volunteer firefighters in the state and the departments and the apparatus that we own.
Okay.
It would cost the state of New York $3.3 billion to replace us. So we do have a value to the state, and we ask that once in a while they listen to us.
So, all right, so what is it that you need? What are you trying to promote? You're here, you wanted to come on today because you wanted to promote something or a bunch of things. What's the main thing you want to promote?
Recruitment in the volunteer fire service. If you're a high school senior, just graduating out of high school this year, and you want to do something for your community, stop down to your local fire department, talk to the gentlemen, talk to the women in the department, and see how you can help them. We don't always need frontline firefighters. Departments can use somebody with a CPA that can help them with their tax papers. Somebody with lawn services that can help them groom the department. You know, housekeepers, you know. We won't turn anybody away. We'll
Right.
take anything you want to give us.
Now, what is the minimum age? What are the qualifications if you want to join a fire company?
To join a department, you have to be 18 years of age, okay? And you've got to pass a physical, you know, there's 2 types of physicals. There's an exterior physical, that way you don't go into burning buildings, you work from the outside, ground services, departments, surrounding departments and that. And if you want to become an interior firefighter, you've got to take the interior firefighter
Physical.
which would be the fit test for your mask, so that you can wear
Is
Scott
is there a strength and agility like the police have to take?
No.
Nothing like that?
Nope.
I mean-
We work you through it and we help you. The volunteer fire service is a family. once you join a volunteer fire company, anywhere in the state of New York, you become part of the firefighter family. We take care of our own. We take care of them. If you're struggling carrying a 5-inch hose, you're going to get the help you need to help you carry that hose. Because you're no good to us unless you are healthy and strong and willing to give us a hand, you know? And we all got to work together. There's no I in team.
So now you have recruitment processes. Is it continual, or is there a certain time when you could join a fire company?
You can join a fire company any day of the week. Most of the departments here in Niagara County, on Thursday nights from 7 to 9, they hold their weekly drills and their training sessions. So most of the departments are there during those times of the week. You stop in, you visit with them, you talk to them. They'll show you around the hall. They'll take you around, let you try some stuff on.
What about background investigations?
We do a
and
background check.
drug testing and that type of thing.
We don't do drug testing, but we do a background check, a physical background check. You do your physical where you do your blood work and all that, just to make sure. And we've had guys in the department coming in and joining, go through their physicals, all right, because we pay for a complete physical for you, that have never had a physical before, and they find some life-threatening diseases with them through that physical. And they haven't been able to move forward, but we've been there to help them. And if it wasn't for them stepping forward, they may not have found out what's
There's a
wrong with them.
benefit
You know,
to them,
so
yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be afraid to knock on the door and offer your help, because we won't turn you away.
So you have to be at least 18.
18.
Don't have to be. Do you have to be a high school graduate
No,
or
no high school graduate, no GED, because everybody's willing to help.
Okay. In fact, when it comes to education, if you join a fire company, some fire companies or all fire companies in New York State will pay for some college for you. What's that
The
situation?
Firemen's Association of the State of New York has received a grant where we will, if you join a volunteer fire department and you're willing to give that fire department 5 years of service, where we will pay for your college education up to $1,600 per semester for your education.
When you say you're willing to give them service for 5 years, how much service? How much? Do you go once a week? Do you have to go every day? How often do you have to go just when there's a fire? How do
Whatever
you-
your individual department requires you to do. If you have a 50-point quarterly level you have to meet in your department, you have to make those 50 points. That would be, like my department, it would require 1 drill a month. All right, we drill every week. You do 1 drill a month, so that's 12 drills a year. You would be required to attend at least 2 monthly meetings through a year of the department to find out what's going on in the department, and your average calls, whenever you're available to make your calls.
Now, most of the volunteer fire companies that I'm familiar with do mainly emergency medical calls.
Right.
I'd say probably, I don't know, you'd probably know the percentage better than I, but most of the calls that I hear going to the volunteer fire companies are heart attacks, people can't breathe, falls, car accidents, things like that. How much of that training do these folks get?
Anybody that wants to expand their training and become a EMT, emergency medical technician, or a paramedic, most of your volunteer fire departments will pay you to go for that training. They will pay all your training, they'll pay your books, all of your stuff to take that, to get that certification. And while you're doing that training, all right, that covers you for your drills, your meeting requirements, and all of your other requirements within the department. They don't require you to do both. If you're going to commit to become an EMT, you're going to get the credits that you need while you're going through your training. And you're right, 60% of the calls today in the volunteer fire service are EMS related, okay? It's gotten so convenient to pick up the phone call and call your local volunteer fire department if you need to be transported to the hospital. At times, it feels like we're a taxi cab service.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because some volunteer fire companies have an ambulance,
Yes,
some don't.
right.
Some have, I don't know if they contract out, but they have an ambulance, a paid ambulance service in the fire hall. So a lot of people tell me, the same thing that you just said. I'm not going to call for I'm going to call the volunteers. They'll take me for free. So what if you live in a town where the ambulance service is paid, but you don't have the money, or you can't go, or?
It's usually worked out with the ambulance service, the paid ambulance services out there. They usually work with you, and the bottom line is they're there to provide the services needed. They will never turn anybody away. Our job and our mission in the volunteer fire service is to protect the people and the property of the state of New York. That's our job, that's our mission, that's what we're gonna do. Some of the departments that have ambulances, that's totally, when they respond to your house or your need, you are, after they're done taking care of you, taking you to the hospital, getting you all the medical coverage you need, they will most likely at the end of the thing, within a week or 10 days, send you a notification saying that they were glad to survive, and with a donation letter, asking you if you would be considered making a donation to the fire department. all
Some
right?
people do abuse it, though. I mean,
Somebody do.
no,
They
do.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I've had people say, I need an ambulance.
Yeah,
I need an ambulance right now.
yeah,
What's wrong?
right.
I stubbed my great toe.
Oh, please.
What? You broke your toe? You broke your? No, I stubbed it. I want to go to the hospital. Well, can you get a taxi? I'm not paying for a taxi. They'll send me an ambulance. It's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get
yeah.
we get a lot of calls where they'll say, my doctor wants me to go to the hospital and get checked out. All right, call, like you said, call a cab, take me to the hospital, or call my son, go pick me.
Yeah.
No, dial 911,
Yeah.
call an ambulance, and they go out.
And then you have to go.
and
is that it?
Once we're dispatched, we're obligated to go.
Well, you know what? I've never seen anybody, like you said, I've never seen them turn anybody down.
Yeah.
I mean, you, in a case like that, maybe you'd ask a few questions like, you mean you broke your foot? You broke your
Yeah,
leg?
yeah.
You fell down the stairs and you can't walk?
They like the
No,
ambulance
I
ride.
stubbed my toe.
They want the ambulance ride. But you're stuck, but once that you can't say, no, get an Uber.
We do. It's happened to me on several occasions where today the ambulance, they call like South Lockport Fire Company where I am in, we have an ambulance. So we respond with an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the scene, we take a look at the patient, the paramedic or the EMT in charge. At that time, the chief, if he's not an EMT, isn't in charge. The EMT on scene is the officer in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And he evaluates the patient to find out what the actual need is of the patient.
Right.
Well, we'll get some patients who'll say, well, I want to go to Buffalo General for a hangnail in their toe, okay?
Yeah.
All right?
How about the famous, well, and I don't mean it derogatory, but I want to go to the VA. I hear that a lot of
Oh,
times.
yes, because of that. But then again, we try to talk them into going to either calling their doctor
Yeah.
or going to an urgent care
Don't you have to
facility.
take them to the closest, if it's an emergency call, to the closest
Closest.
hospital that can handle their problem at
Exactly.
the time?
Exactly.
Regardless
again-
of where they want to go.
A lot of times they'll want to go out there and we'll say, listen, you need to go
Okay.
to Niagara
So
Falls
that you
Memorial,
can say.
Lockport Memorial.
So what if, as a volunteer company, you pick up a patient, he wants to go to the VA, but you feel, no, you're too sick, you have to go to the closest hospital, which in this case might be St. Mary's. So you go to St. Mary's and they say, yeah, I have this problem, that problem, and he goes, well, I'd like to be treated at the VA. So now, would your fire company take him to the VA from there?
No, then they would, the medical provider at the hospital would make the decision of who transports them.
We're talking to Ed Tase. We're coming right back. We're talking about the volunteer fire companies today. Let's get real for a moment. When you're looking for a home appliance repairman, what do you look for? Well, in most cases, you look for someone who can do the job honestly and do it correctly the first time. Then you look for someone who's reasonable, someone who's going to give you a fair price for the work he does. Well, I got one that's even better than that. He'll give you the best price you're going to ever hear. His name is Chris Moore, and his service call is $35. Got a problem with the stove, refrigerator, freezer, washer, dryer? Hey, you name it. If it's a home appliance, Chris can fix it, and he does it for a $35 service call, plus the cost of the parts and installation. Now, I don't know of any other repairman who's had as much experience, over 30 years, as Chris Moore, who will come to your home for a $35 service call. You know, once you have Chris at your house, you're going to want him back again and again and again, and you're going to recommend him to all your friends and relatives. So you want to have that phone number handy. So what do? Well, let's update. Let's not put it on a piece of paper and stick it somewhere where it's going to get lost or fall off, dry up, and disappear. Put it in your cell phone where you know you can find it when you need it, because you know someday you will need Chris Moore's number. It's 523-5911. Chris Moore's Appliance Repair. $35 service call plus the cost of the parts and installation. 523-5911. Put that in your cell phone right now. There's nobody that doesn't like. Remember Sarah Lee? No one didn't like. There's nobody.
Nobody
that
doesn't like Sarah Lee.
Yeah.
And nobody doesn't like Chris.
That's right. Nobody doesn't like Chris
That's
Moore.
right.
They-
You
they-
called Chris Moore
I
that
called
time
Chris one time, yes.
for your fridge,
For my
right?
refrigerator.
And he didn't take him for money that didn't need to be spent because he says, I don't
told-
work on those.
Did he tell you don't do it?
He told me don't waste my money on that.
That's what
And there you go.
Yeah,
He was
See?
honest.
Yeah, he does.
See, he was honest, so there you go.
He told me the same thing. And I questioned him. I said, "What do you mean? The refrigerator, it's kind of cold." He goes, "Yeah, it's cold on the bottom." He took out the back panel, and it was all frosty on the bottom, and the top was warm. He goes, "The coils, it's not. Don't put any money into this."
That's what
there
he
you
told
go.
me. He was
Yeah.
honest with me. He could have taken me to the cleaner. but
That's
he-
right,
he
doesn't
was
do it.
honest.
You're talking with Ed
guy.
Tase. He's from the New York
Say
State,
the whole name,
the Firemen's Association of the State of New York. But
vice president.
he's a vice president. What's a vice president? I'm president.
Yeah, what's a vice
I'm
president?
president of this company.
Vice president of all the headings, right?
What's Joe Biden? What's
But
a
you
vice
know what? He went to visit Chucky Schumer recently. But
Really?
Chucky
We
wasn't
tried.
there.
Chucky wasn't there.
But why did you go there? Tell him you went to Washington. Why did you go?
We went to Washington to try to, you know, as much as we work with the Senate and the Assembly in the state of New York, we also have federal legislation that we need to take a look at federally through the National Volunteer Fire Council, where everybody does the same thing, but we do it in different areas. So we have to promote our federal legislation also to try to keep our federal funding available and try to make sure that they don't cut the AFG grants for the fire service.
For the
Well,
volunteer.
when you
firemen?
went,
It's for
but when you went down to
voluntary
see
and paid.
Chuck Schumer, didn't you kind of make an appointment before?
There was
and
an
say,
appointment.
Hey,
Oh,
Chuck,
yeah,
come.
yeah, Chucky was out of town. It was an appointment.
Appointments were made.
Where was he?
He was on Easter break.
Oh, but he didn't know he was going to be on Easter break when you said you wanted to come down and
Oh,
see.
yeah.
We dropped the package off to his staff member, who was very gracious to us, and they listened to us, and they took our information, and hopefully one of these days
So
we'll
they pacified you, you mean?
yeah, well, you're right.
I mean,
So you said they were thinking, I mean, it's not definite that they're thinking of cutting,
Yeah, they want to cut the AFG grant. The federal government wants to cut.
what's AFG?
It's the I couldn't tell you the thing, but it's.
Can we make up a name?
it's
The American Firefighters
No,
Grant.
it's the.
That's AFG.
That's what it is. That's right.
That's what it is. It's the American Firefighting Grant.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you make
Yeah,
up names,
that's it.
sometimes you
Yeah,
get
that's it.
wrong.
That's the
But,
ticket.
but what we got to do is we got to make sure that the granting is available for the fire service and emergency personnel nationwide, so that you look at we're volunteers, but you also look in the city of Niagara Falls, the city of Lockport, the city of Buffalo. They get these grant monies and they utilize it to buy the salaries and benefits for like 4 firefighters for a year. And then they hope through retirement and attrition that they can keep these firefighters on at the end of the grant period. So that funding is there for them. But only around 10% of that $450 million goes to the volunteers.
Oh, okay.
All right? And
So if they were to cut that, that's pretty bad.
that would
for you
really
guys.
cut us real bad. But
Bingo, you have to have bingo every night.
My God, well, the chickens aren't safe, they'll be barbecued. It'll have a whole barbecue spit in the back. I mean, it's
you know,
funny.
but I gotta say this much. As far as the volunteer fire service, with their bingos, their chicken barbecues, their basket raffles that they have, the community is always behind them.
Supportive, yeah.
And they always support them.
Yeah.
And it's great to have the community that we have. You know, they say, Buffalo say it's a city of the good neighbors.
Yeah,
It's the exact same thing here in Niagara County.
Yes,
We've got the people
yes.
behind us,
Yeah.
the residents are behind us, and they respect us, you know. We were talking earlier about the ambulances and the time constraints there. You know, when a volunteer company goes on an ambulance call and they take somebody to the hospital, that could turn into be a 3 to almost as much as 4-hour call
Sure.
for that volunteer, all right? Because once he takes that patient to the hospital, they just can't leave that patient at the hospital and take off and go back to their stations.
okay,
They have to stay with that patient until an ER doctor has accepted the patient,
oh,
signed their PCR documents that they've turned them over to a medically qualified individual.
right,
And sometimes if the emergency rooms are busy and the doctors are busy, that could be a time constraining situation. So that's what hurts a lot of sometimes of, you know, you were talking about sometimes it takes 45 minutes or 20 minutes for somebody to come to a call.
Right.
But a lot of guys sometimes, and I know it happens, and is they're looking, if they're working 3 to 11, the call comes in at 2:30, they're saying, oh, I can't go on it because I gotta go to work at 3 o'clock. You know?
Well, you know what? I kind of understand that, but it seems to me if you are a part of a volunteer fire company and you know people in your area are counting on you for an emergency, and you know that at any time they may call for a heart attack or whatever, seems to me somebody should step up to the plate and say, okay, I'm working Friday from 4 to 12. I'm going to be waiting for this call. I'm not going to go on my job as in the factory or whatever. I'm going to be available because I've made this commitment. And if they don't, I think they should find somebody who can.
Well, a lot of the departments today are having on-call people. They're scheduling them to be at the hall at certain hours of the day to be there. There's been some discussion, statewide and countywide, about going on a pay-on-call system, where they would pay the guys to sit in the hall to wait for calls and be available. Niagara County has gone to automatic mutual aid. I know if you go out into Terry's Corners area right now, there's 3 calls. They dispatch 3 separate departments for 1 call, hoping that
So
getting the
when-
manpower that they
Somebody
need.
when
that
somebody
they need,
calls,
yeah.
when somebody calls 911, they say I have a fire, I have a medical emergency, I have whatever, and they put the call out for Town of Niagara, Lockport, wherever it happens to be. When do they find out who's coming and when?
We have on our cell phones, we have what we call I am responding. If a call comes over on our cell phone, and
is that when you get a beep or something?
yeah, you can go to your cell phone and you can put in there, like right now, we got a call going on in South Lockport, and I've got on here that there's 3 members en route. One's going to the scene, the other 2 are going to the hall 1. So we can track who's coming and who's not coming. It tells the time the call went out and the time that they responded.
And how long do you wait if somebody is not responding? Because a lot of times I hear, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, or they'll call for the volunteers and nobody responds for 5-10 minutes, and then they have to tone them out again. And if they still have nobody respond, they have to tone out another company.
The county, I think, has like a 5-minute response time in the county.
If nobody, then they,
If they don't hear from anybody, then they automatically hit the tones again, and then some of the individual departments
Right.
can have it set up with dispatch where you don't tone out again, don't tone my guys out again.
right,
You tone the next available department. So
Gotcha.
they have what they call a shared service agreement with the other departments, where they'll tone out the other department and they'll come over. Wilson is great for it. They have a great partnership with Wilson, South Wilson, Upper Mountain, and them guys out there, where they have a couple paramedics and EMTs that share services between the departments. So if they hear a call going down in Wilson and the guy in South Wilson says, well, I'm available, not going, but they didn't call me, they'll call dispatch and say, hey, I'm available, do they need me? Then they'll call the radio and say,
Okay.
we got so-and-so available, do you want to meet you at the scene, you want to pick them up, or whatever? And they work it out. So,
Work together.
we're trying to work on getting that countywide, but again, it takes time when you're dealing with volunteers.
Is volunteer firemen, is that popular across the country? I mean, do you know how many, is this like, are there hundreds of thousands of members, or is this like,
Well, our statewide association, we have around 47,000 members in our association alone,
okay,
and they're all volunteer firefighters in the state of New York.
okay.
Long Island is a
Why do we have volunteers, though? Is it because they can't afford to implement, say, a fire company in Niagara County, in our area, say to take Town of Niagara, Wheatfield, North Tonawanda, you can't ball them into one fire company and have guys 24 hours ready to go out?
There is been talk in state legislation of consolidation, of taking, like in the town of Wheatfield, you've got 5 fire companies in the town of Wheatfield, about consolidating them down to maybe 3 departments, and bringing them all under one umbrella. That's been
Well, how long have they
discussed.
been talking about it in New York?
Oh, 15 years.
Okay, well, that's on the
But, you know,
agenda
New
with
York-
the new Peace Bridge.
You know,
It's right there,
But
there.
we realize there's problems out there. We realize we're not the best at getting solutions, okay? But I can tell you that I've been involved in the volunteer fire service for over 40 years. It's in my blood,
Yeah.
and once it's in your blood, it stays in your blood.
So more problems now than years ago?
Yes.
More problems now
Yeah, with the recruitment time, yes.
with recruitment.
It
That's,
used to be the volunteer fire service used to be generational, okay?
okay,
Where if your father was your grandfather was a volunteer
Yeah.
firefighter, your father was a volunteer fire, you went down when you became 18
Got it.
and joined the volunteer fire department.
gotcha,
You know?
okay.
Uh,
You're not seeing that as much now?
Not seeing that much anymore.
Okay.
It's unfortunate, in New York State, we have one tremendous education system in New York,
Yeah,
but
I hear a but.
the
But-
employment in New York State doesn't pay the younger generation to stay in New York State.
What
They're leaving
is
as
what
fast
is
as
the
they can.
disconnect? I mean, years ago, the younger folks thought this was an exciting thing. I want to be a cop. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a volunteer. I want
Yeah.
to be. Why?
When did
time
it?
is-
Where are we? Where's the disconnect that we're hitting with these younger people not joining the fire companies?
When I first joined it in 1971, the essentials of firemanship was 26 hours of training. Okay? Now it's 167 hours.
Jesus.
You're required to put in 167 hours of training to be certified as a first responder.
Wow.
And most of the departments give you 2 years to make that training up once
Okay.
you join.
Okay.
Okay, but you're required to complete EMT or firefighter 1, they call
Let's
it.
talk a minute about, and I've seen the firemen, and I got to give them credit for this. I've seen this many times. Firemen go to the scene. This is a frequent thing now. Overdose. They go to an overdose. They get out the Narcan and they save people's lives. I've seen them do it on a regular basis now. What's that coming to? What do you see as far as that opioid crisis and the people that OD and you can't believe it. You go to a scene and the person is overdosed and the family's crying and
Yeah.
the person's dead
And they think that
and they're
they're
not
gone,
dead.
yeah,
And
and they bring them back.
the firemen bring them back, spray the Narcan to them, the policemen too.
That's amazing.
And they get up and they want to fight you.
Oh yes, it's tough. You get out there and the EMTs and the paramedics and the people that are trained to use that, they go out and use it. But the firefighters that are there that are not trained to utilize that, they're the support network. Because then they have the family members, the daughter, the granddaughter, the mother, the father,
right.
outside of the scenario, just hugging them and
Trying to keep
trying to
them.
calm them down and
keep them calm,
everything's
yeah.
gonna be fine, and things like that. So sometimes it's not just,
Sometimes,
Right,
sometimes it is.
Yeah,
Most times it isn't, because if they don't die the first time,
You're gonna be
second
back there
time,
2 weeks
third,
later.
yeah, it's just a
the
revolving
rules.
door.
so you keep
Repetitive
going
calls.
back to the same
It's-
people.
it's the same
Well, how
thing.
much can their body take?
They-
How many times
well,
can you
I've
die
seen-
and come back?
I've seen 1, 2, 3, fourth time, sorry,
Wow.
Yeah, it's repetitive calls. Those are the repetitive calls you keep going to over and over again. And, the old
And
say, you can
yeah,
lead a
and-
horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You can get these people all the help they want, but they don't want to understand that this ain't going to continue forever.
Now, we talked for a minute about the fire service, and you're trying to get it into schools? You're trying to get it as, say, a college course?
We're trying to get to the education system in the state to allow us to open up the education department so that these firefighters that have to take this Firefighter 1 training course, that they can take it in the high school, the BOCES classes, prior to graduating, so that when they graduate at 18, they want to join the fire department, they've already got that training, okay?
That's not available now?
No, it's not available right now.
Okay.
So we're pushing for some legislation on it. We've been talking to a lot of the Assembly and the Senate people.
And what are they
Yeah.
saying?
So why is there a holdup? I mean, you can take a basic police course now in college. It doesn't make you a police officer, but it gets you close to the door. Then you got to take firearms and a few things to get onto the department and be qualified under, you wouldn't get taser training and pistol training, but you get the basic police academy. They won't do this for the firefighters?
Not at this time, they won't.
And why?
Because they just, talking to the state education department is like talking to the brick wall.
No, don't they give
They
you
say
some
we'll
type
get
of
back
reason?
to you, or what are they saying?
They say they'll look into it, they'll put it into a committee, it'll go into a committee, and guess what, it
Jesus.
never comes
How long
out.
has this been going on?
It's like a black hole.
Oh, probably 3 years now.
It seems like it would be
It's like a no-brainer.
yeah, do it, get people trained and
What's the downside to it? I mean, if it takes that long to figure it out, what are they saying?
Because you thought about it, not them. That's exactly what it's all
It's
about,
like something in the air in New York State.
Our
There's something
corporate
in the
office, and
air.
our state office for the Firemen's Association, our office is right across the street from the Capitol, the governor's office.
In Albany,
In
yeah.
Albany.
Yeah.
And we spend, our staff,
You go there a lot.
I'm at least.
Well, maybe next time you make an appointment with Chucky Schumer and
Well,
maybe,
but Chucky's in Washington.
Maybe he'll show up and
Chucky's in
see you next
Washington.
time.
But
But in Albany, he's in Albany a lot, and they're fighting for this stuff.
we're working on it. We have a full-time lobbyist team that we've hired that works with us, and it's unfortunate, we're going into Albany on the 20th of May. We're opening the doors for all the volunteer firefighters in the state to come to Albany, to come in your Class A uniforms, bring your fire trucks, and we're going to do a firefighters' day in the Capitol.
Really make a statement,
And we're just going to walk the halls at that legislative office building in Albany with hopefully hundreds of volunteer firefighters.
And asking them for what?
And asking them to listen to us and understand the value of the volunteer fire service in the state of New York.
to get more recruits,
Yeah.
to
well,
get the word out there, get the high school
We have-
students, get them interested.
We have the Fair Play Ambulance Bill on legislation this year, where is going to allow the volunteer fire service to bill an insurance company for our services, to recoup some of our medical supplies that we use on a call and things like that, We're not gonna come out with the $700 and $800 bills that the paid service does, but just to recoup some of our costs. We are the only state in the United States that is, the volunteer fire service is not allowed to bill for their ambulance service. So we've got that piece of legislation on the table right now. We do have sponsors in the Senate and the Assembly on that.
Okay,
We're hopefully,
so we're inching closer.
we're hoping we're gonna get that one passed this year.
Jesus Lord, help us.
And then again, it's to promote the legislation to create the career, the technical education pathways that we just discussed about. That's out there. We want to increase the volunteer firefighters benefit law, where right now, if a volunteer firefighter dies in the line of duty or is injured in the line of duty, their family gets $400 a month for the rest of their life, all right? We want to try to increase that up to $650.
Okay,
It's really not much if you're incapacitated and,
Right.
you know, I
And it
mean,
has never changed in
if
several
you
years.
fall through, I've seen firemen fall through floors into the basement and different things and where they're seriously injured and they can't work
Right.
after that. I'll give
So
you
we're
four-
trying
I'll give
to
you 400
increase-
bucks. I'll give you $400 a month.
You know, so we're trying to increase that benefit law out there.
we need the money for the illegals, don't you understand this?
Then we're trying to, we have a big problem. I haven't seen it here in Niagara County, but I've seen it up in Syracuse, up in the Hudson Valley area, where the landlords are buying these apartment complexes and things like this here. And then they're going in when they have big colleges in there, and they're dividing the houses up into dorm rooms, okay?
Okay.
And they only have one exit to the
Oh.
residence.
Oh,
So
if
we're
anything happens.
trying to get the code enforcement officers to enforce this and
Okay.
to stop the landlords from allowing to do this
Okay,
because of the safety and not getting out of the building, having egress into the facility, emergency exits. We see it a lot in a lot of the highly educated college areas. Then there's the other thing is they don't enforce the fire inspections of schools in the state of New York.
oh,
Who doesn't enforce that?
The state education, the state codes department.
What type of violations are you finding?
There's finding where there's egress blockage. A lot of it's being held in these private schools because the private schools fall under a different set of
There's
laws.
a lot of problem though now
Public
with this active shooting things,
Oh, yeah.
where they have to lock doors and they don't want to make it so, this would seem to me would be a problem. You don't want to leave it so a student could open the door to run out if there's a fire. Well, actually you do, but you don't want to be able to unlock that door if, hey, a guy's waving, hey, let me in, let me in. Yeah, sure, I'll pop the door open and you go out. So,
Yeah.
I think that's maybe one of the problems here.
It's education of the every department is doing active shooting trainings. In fact, we just had our office staff in Albany. We employ about 17 employees in our office. We just did an active shooter training for our employees today.
gotta
you know?
be every place, yeah.
Because you gotta
unfortunately.
do it, and you gotta watch out you gotta protect everybody today. You can't treat the volunteer fire service or any emergency services like you used to 20 years ago.
Well, we're talking about recruiting volunteers, we're talking about the money going in, we're talking about all the different aspects, the medical, all the things that the volunteers do that a lot of people really don't realize. We haven't really talked about fire. We're going to do that when we come back.
If you were going to build the perfect lawn and garden tractor, what would it look like? Would it have a direct drive shaft? A hydraulic deck lift? What about a cast iron front axle or a welded steel frame? How easy would your tractor be to operate? Would it have power steering and cruise control? How about an automatic transmission? Would your tractor have a cup holder? See, the reason we ask is we've already built that tractor, the Cub Cadet, the world's best designed lawn and garden tractor. Call this number now to find out what makes the Cub Cadet that much better than an ordinary tractor.
Only your locally owned Cub Cadet dealer has genuine parts, accessories, trained service technicians, and the widest selection of innovative Cub Cadet products. We're here for you whenever you need us, with expert service and support to keep your equipment running at peak performance for years to come. Take advantage of exceptional financing at your local Cub Cadet dealer today.
Stop by your locally owned Cub Cadet dealer, Niagara Lawn and Garden Equipment, today.
Hey, stop out and see Mike out at Niagara Lawn Garden. If you weren't lucky enough to buy a Cub Cadet this year, and maybe your lawnmower wouldn't start, or you're looking for some lawn equipment, go see Mike out at Cub Cadet. You'll be happy you did. Good prices and good deals. Well, we're talking to Ed Tase. We're talking about fires. Ed, we talk about volunteer fire companies, not so much fires. Tell me about some of the training these guys go through. I mean, I watched them a few months ago. I was at a fire in the town of Niagara, and the building looked like that. And I'm watching them kicking the doors and running there. It was sub-zero. Everything was frozen. And the flames are coming out at them like that. And I'm going, man, I'll stay back here and tell the traffic to stay away while they do that. That's a scary job.
It is, and it's unfortunately in the training today in a volunteer fire service or any fire service, is once that call comes in, you have to start thinking immediately. You have to familiarize, you have to think about, all right, where's this location at? What's your access to the facility? Whether you're, right now, the county has a great CAD system in place where they can tell the departments exactly where the hydrants are located.
Okay.
On the west side, the east side, north side, 3 houses up from you seeing where you're
Every
going.
minute counts.
They can tell them all this, and that minute counts.
Yeah.
Where they can hit and get water up. You have to assess the situation. You have to evaluate your surroundings. Is it an actual fire, or was it a bombing? Was it arson? And when you're going in to fight the fire, you have to also be careful of, you're putting the fire out, but at the same time, you have to protect the fire for the fire investigators to go in and be able to
Okay.
find out what actually caused this fire.
Right.
Big incident was a few years ago, they had the big tire fire in Lockport, where they had every fire department
Yes.
for miles and miles and miles around, and that
Took days to
that
put
took
that out.
days to
Yeah.
put that fire out.
Oh, my God.
How much training do the local fire companies get in actual firefighting like this? Do they burn buildings? Do they go in
They
buildings?
go
or-
in, we have, in Niagara County, we have two very nice, very well-equipped training facilities, burn towers, where we actually go in and set fires in these buildings, and they go in. We have one up at River Road in the town of Wheatfield, and we have one at the Lockport Police Station, 911 Center, where they can actually go in and set a fire in the building. They can burn it very, very hot, and they can address it and approach it to whatever assessments they need.
Right.
The training officer evaluates what he wants them to focus on that evening, and he'll go in and he'll set that fire, and he'll set it a certain way, and then he'll teach the firefighters how to approach it, how to attack it,
The
and
right
how to
way.
back out of it.
Yeah, the right way. Yeah.
Biggest thing today is in the fire service, in fires like this here today, the cancer in the volunteer fire service is increasing drastically.
Sure, all that smoke, all that.
All that
oh,
smoke, the carcinogens on the furniture, and the plastic PVCs and stuff that's in these.
See, that's the stuff a lot of people, we don't think about.
They don't think about it.
No.
And we just passed a piece of legislation to give cancer coverage to the volunteer fire service. Again, New York State was the only one that didn't have cancer coverage for the
But
volunteer.
that passed?
Yes, it did pass. We have it in place now. The biggest thing is to make sure you got your Scott pack on, you're covered, you're protected when you're going in the scene. You're no good to them on these scenes if you're not prepared. So sometimes people say, well, it's taking you too long to get in. Step back, make sure you're properly dressed, you have the proper equipment, and the proper tools to do the job.
Do your firefighters go to Montour Falls like a lot of the paid companies
Yes,
do?
we
Is
do.
that's
We all train
the
together.
fire training in the area?
Yes, and what's good about that, Sal, is that over the years, there used to be a disconnect between the volunteers and the paid firefighters. And today, I can actually say for the city of Lockport, our department, which is 100% volunteer, we train monthly with the city of Lockport paid firefighters.
Okay.
We train together, we do the same thing. We all do the exact same thing, just some of us get paid for it, some of us don't. And if you look in the city of Lockport, and I'm sure it's out in the city of Niagara Falls, is most of their firefighters that come into these join these, get their training as a volunteer.
Okay.
All right?
Now, Ed, we have just a couple of minutes left. We're talking with Ed Tase. We got to have you back because this is interesting, and we'll got to have you on when we can take some phone calls next time. But if there was one thing you wanted to tell everybody out there about the volunteer fire service, maybe joining, if one thing you want them to know, what is it? What would that be?
The volunteer fire service takes pride in what they do. It's important for you to understand that we are here to protect and save you. If you ever have it in your heart, in your time, please stop by your local volunteer fire department, ask about joining, and if you don't have the interest in joining another time, stop by and tell your volunteer firefighters thank you for what they do.
Is there a number? Is there somewhere to call? People want more information. Is there a website?
You can go to www.fasny.com. That's www.fasny.com. That's our website. Or they can call me at any time at 716-622-0849. More than willing to take your calls, and thank you.